Welcome over Plot Armor, and here we are in Immortal Empires, today doing a complete top to bottom run through of the High Elves, all their sub-factions, heroes, traits, and starting positions, and do they start off better or worse off in Immortal Empires. Now let's quickly address the weaknesses and nerfs, because the big elephant in the room is yes, Entrepreneur is nerfed. Divided the fan base a little bit here. I understand if there's people that liked it, and I'm sorry to see you lose something you did like, but for the good of the game, I'm in the camp of I say good, get rid of it. It absolutely was never ever necessary, and the internet is what popularized the fact that it's apparently a staple to high elf play that mages need to be doing tax returns instead of casting spells. So I think that this is a good thing in the overall scheme of things, but there will be a bit of a knee-jerk and a little bit of adjustment to work out how to make that money back in other ways. So is it going to snowball as hard as it used to? Well, no, but that's kind of the point. This is becoming an 8-player multiplayer game, so there does need to be some considerations given to that. But does this mean that you're going to do badly as the High Elves? Absolutely not. I mean, we're turn 62. I haven't been too expansive on very hard battle difficulty. And there we go. We're making 22,000 in trade, 27 in regular income. We're not doing badly at all. It's turn 62 and we've already got short victory. So are the High Elves weak? Absolutely not. They're not at all. And we're going to run through all the changes for better, for worse. So in terms of nerfs, that's it. The one stupid overpowered rule which just printed money because you clicked 2 buttons. There was no leveling up involved, there was no provincial management to do, there was nothing. All you did was turn Lothern into a homeless shelter by just printing lots of mages of the same trait. I'm sorry to say it, that is not depth. We needed to get rid of this in order to get more depth. If we have an exploit that comprises part of a stable part of the economy, that means that this just gets left in the dust. By removing that exploit, if there is any power creep, CA will have to revamp the entire system, and that is way more exciting. That's just my personal take. I'm not expecting you to feel the exact same way about it. You're going to have to do some things that you probably didn't have to do previously. All these mages are entrepreneurs. Let's watch them get out of here.
Traveling.
200.
My powers are yours to command.
200. There we go. So by having them in our richest province, we only gain 600 bucks. So are they worth getting now? Hell no. High Elves have plenty more access to other overpowered ludicrous tools like Emollient. You can still stack Fecund and stimulate growth handmaids into your provinces to jack up the growth, and you can still employ level 10 lords, boost your economy, then disband them, getting a bonus without paying for it. So there's still a bunch of cheese and broken stuff inside the High Elves. It just means you have to work a bit longer to get to it. The Dark Elves, they've had a rework. We'll get onto that. Did they need it? I'm not sure. The Dark Elves are powerful, but at least you had to level up heroes, place them properly, provincial management. It's not just spamming the exact same unit in the exact same province repetitively. There was more to it, so I need more time with the Dark Elves, but let's stay on topic. Just a quick reminder, guys, if you are enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps out. Ask any question in the comments. I answer everything. And if you'd like to talk strategy, feel free to join the Discord. Cheers. So before we talk about the specific High Elf strengths, let's talk about the meta that is Immortal Empires, and it is a different game. The meta changes are the winds of magic. Of course, magic has been reined back a lot, but this is across the entire board. Now, on the note of lords themselves and casters, caster lords absolutely benefit and leave anyone that's not a caster in the dust, because level 50 means there is now no opportunity cost to being a caster. When there was level 40 cap, you'd maybe only have some points to put into your archers, your spearmen, your monsters, whatever. But now at level 50 you can get all the spells, all your personal traits, as well as buff basically all the units that you would ever use. So there is no downside to being a caster. Guess what the High Elves have lots of is incredible caster lords. So the meta benefits High Elves there. Archers at low levels, very useful in sieges, benefits the High Elves there. Also, melee now is more of an issue because we have longer running sieges. Another big thing with the meta is diplomacy is a lot more difficult now. You can't just rope people into joining your wars as easily, and of course confederations are much harder. But again, guess what the High Elves have special abilities to do, and that is to manipulate diplomacy. we're going to dial into as well, where those abilities have been buffed a lot. But guess what? Let's move into the first big buff that not enough people are talking about in terms of campaign, and that is Martial Prowess. This is the buff to melee defense. Normally it would stay there till you hit 50% hit points. Now you have to only go down to 25% before you lose this. This is massive. This means your basic spearmen or even your archers are nowhere near as helpless, and if you do need to tangle, this makes a massive difference. You will feel it, you will notice it, but more importantly, some of the good things about certain things being dialed back means it brings other things into prominence. I see a lot of people complaining that Sword Masters of Hoth are completely useless. They'll never be a mainstay staple for the High Elf armies because that's not how they roll, but they are actually usable now. If you want to throw a couple into your armies, they're there and they will actually give you some value back. You're not just having fun here. So again, the boost in Martial Prowess. Another buff on the battlefield is dragons have now been, I think, overtuned, not because of their stats, but their movement is ludicrous. You can dodge every single arrow currently. They turn faster than eagles, but it's another big buff. On the battlefield, the High Elves have been jacked right up. They're doing fantastic. So that's Martial Prowess as well as dragons boosting on the battlefield. So you got basic and advanced units with a big buff. What else do they have? Well, now we have victory conditions, and victory conditions finally reward you with something, and the High Elf reward for short victory is excellent. +3 capacity for all heroes. Awesome, that is so good, and it makes you want to do it. And what do we have to do? Usually just take out 2 factions that aren't too far away. You just have to be aware of a few different things and amend your playstyle. You just can't paint the entire map like you used to, and if a lord gets down to, say, when you go to confederate them, let's say we've got Eltharion here, if he's say -8, you can save scum and then try to threaten. High Elves don't usually respond well to it, but you can give it a go. We did this to gain Alarielle. We'll have to hold off till that probably improves, right? But again, if you threaten someone, you can just throw a little bit of influence and then make sure no one ever goes south. Now, by gaining defensive alliances, you can build outposts and do all that groovy stuff. But here we can also work out how are we going to put pressure on these guys. Because most of the time, let's look at Alith Anar. Alith Anar is up here, stationed in Karankar with a rather decent empire here. All these guys are trade partners here. We've got basically settled everywhere to be peaceful all the way down here. So he's got no threats. So we need to make some threats. He's got a defensive alliance with us because we didn't want to get roped into anything else. But now the tides have changed. Now he is the one on the frontier. So let's upgrade our alliance to a military alliance. Yep. Pay what we need to do. Okay, cool. And now we can declare war on the World Walkers. Declare war, and we're going to pull a Naggarythe into it. There we are. And while we won't see it now, he has a chance now of going out, either gaining more territory for us, which is great for the elven kind, or he might lose his army and get sandwiched between them and the pirates and eventually go, okay, I'm in a bit of trouble. See, that's already improved. And then he'll want to confederate. So in terms of trade, trade is how you make your money now in Total War Warhammer 3. I used to never ever build this building here. Like, there was just better ways to get influence in my opinion. Now this 5% to tariffs is pretty good. The way you make your money now is to, in each area you need to find someone who you think is going to be a worthy ally, and then you bankroll them just a little bit because you want them to be strong as well as build relations. If they're winning their wars, they're taking more territory. Here we just choose order-tied factions, choose humans, dwarves or elves. So these are all of our trade partners, but the big difference is you need to look here at your tradable resources. We're currently at 100, and you'll even find yourself trying to build more trinket makers, which I never thought I would need to try and build more of, but here we go, there's 82%, 100, 100. So the reason we need more resources is there's now a penalty for not having enough tradable resources. See, they think too many trade partners, -15. But even still, you will still find there are people that want to deal with you. So let's look at this. There's Reichland, we may as well start off with a non-aggression pact, and we can hopefully evolve this into a trade deal. This is all built about by deciding to back the Tomb Kings. Tomb Kings are excellent allies. Bankroll them to make sure they win their engagements. The good thing is if you bankroll the same people, I chose these guys and Volkmar. By bankrolling them together, they have something in common. You, okay? But as time goes on, they'll probably see that as more of a benefit than not. So, yeah, they're not about to declare war on each other just yet, but if you can get them on side, they can be long-standing trade partners and one won't stamp the other out. as sea lanes are one of the best means of maintaining healthy trade relations because you don't need to go through people, you can go around them, keeping peaceful relations in the middle to trade with, and just going after the ones you're after. So we have trade there with the Sister Twilight, trade with the Exiles in the Heck, of course trade and an agreement with them. Currently we're throwing influence at Grombrindle. Okay, we've been using influence a lot recently, but influence now, the basic cost is no longer 7 or 8, it's now only 3 or 4, right? So you can do more easier. So when you come across someone new, you just throw 7 influence their way, and that gives 20 plus 20, so plus 40 relations. Get yourself a non-aggression, get yourself trade. Easy. You just have to make sure you have enough tradable resources. And in this campaign, I even found myself, before I'd confederated Alarielle, she owned this, and I owned that. This has the iron resource, so I decided to just pay the difference and decide to do a settlement trade with her, so I held this. And you don't want to have too many settlements too early because it makes you a more strategic threat. So it's about keeping small to start off with, but holding the settlements that matter to you, i.e. capitals and resources. And now the final buff is we no longer have to wait to get our influence when we still influence, whatever this is measured to. So let's watch the influence bar, 61, and there we go. Being able to instantly get influence is massive. This means you get your hands on it and can do more with it even sooner. So you don't have the broken, or as broken stuff to spend it on, but you can still do exactly what you used to. You can cycle through all the lord types that you don't want to find the ones that you do. You still have frugal, you still have emollient, conscientious, you still have administrator. This is actually a very overlooked one, but I think it might get a bit more traction now. We still have incendiary, letting you deal double damage. Just as fun as it used to be. High elf players, you have a lot of gifts here to work with. You just have to think outside the box a bit more and work around with the buffs to your diplomacy and trade. Let's just look at one more thing, and that is heroes and their skill trees, just to show that they are all exactly the same. You still get your Sun Dragon mount as the Fire Wizard. You still get the faction-wide buffs to entertainment buildings, ports, and industry buildings, on your nobles and on your lords, so you still have the broken multipliers at your fingertips. It just takes you a bit longer to get to, but you're thinking, how will I get there? I'll show you. Cheesy players, don't worry, all is not lost. Here we can get +2 lord rank. Of course we have certain legendary lord skills which also help with this. In Avelorn we have another +1 lord rank. In Eataine we have another +2 lord rank. And of course, every single dragon keep you level up to tier 5 is another +1. Personally, I love the changes. It's buffed areas that make it more deep and got rid of areas that were a bit more shallow and limited. So again, this is all subjective. You're within your rights to be happy or sad about these changes, but I'm trying to show you, get rid of the lies on the internet. The high elves are in a bad position. They were S tier in Warhammer 2, and I think that they're still at least A+ in Warhammer 3. Now I'm going to go through each of the legendary lords, kicking off with everyone's high school boy crush. It is Tyrion, the OG Chad, everyone's first love, and he's starting off, of course, with his +10 diplomatic relations to all high elves, and that has so much more weight and power now that diplomacy is much more difficult. Being able to globally recruit with -1 recruitment has always been amazing. That hasn't changed. In terms of start position, it is exactly the same as it was before. There is a lot more action on Ulth 1, let's take away the fog, and Ulth 1 is in a much more of a shit show than it was beforehand. We can quite easily purge these guys away, but we start off with really, really rocky relations with Caledor. Now you have two options: you can either wipe them out or just throw some influence and love at them to get them to, get on side. You can do that. I still need to test if confederating them gets you eyes on Caledor. I decided instead just to run my starting mage all the way down here to Teclis and then sail him up here to discover Imrik. And if you do that, especially if you come down this way, you can get trade deals with him, trade deals with him, trade deals with the Tomb Kings, and make sure you gift these guys, right? You want them to be rich, you want them to win so they grow and then make you more money, right? So you're basically controlling the world's economy by backing the people you want to win basically funding their arms race and then building them up as trade partners. The recommended play, of course, get rid of the Dark Elves, get rid of the Greenskins, and then take out Safri. Poor Safri, they always cop it, but everyone hates them, everyone will love you for purging them, and eventually this war will simmer down. Tyrion's goals are to eliminate the Cult of Pleasure and then Naggarythe. Not too difficult. Once you've settled Ulthuan, make your way across, kill Naggarythe, hop into the sea lane, and you'll travel underwater and appear right here. Sail, bang, bang, campaign 1. You can do this by about turn 50. Overall, I have to say Tyrion is actually stronger. I think he was always an easy campaign, but now I feel he has more control, especially with the new allegiance system. You can really get a lot of leverage out of this, directing people where you need them to go, and it can be a lot of fun, and particularly because staying relatively small will help you confederate the guys you do want to get, i.e. the other legendary lords. You won't be able to make the big confederation flexes, like if you've looked at my videos from Warhammer 2, you won't be able to do that as easily. That's just not the way it works anymore. It's a slow burn now, and it's about acquiring more territory the bigger you get. It's a lot more focused around spending small amounts of influence, which is now reduced in cost, using 1 or 2 on a new potential trade partner, maybe 1 or 2 gifts, buy a non-aggression pact, and then just get another trade agreement. Make sure you fund your allies, and you will have an absolute gangbusters amount of trade. Tyrion himself functions the exact same, having his amazing personal line here with Unifier, giving plus 20 to tile of diplomatic relations, so this immediately makes him the strongest starting lord in terms of trying to unite Ulthuan. The sense of urgency, of course, excellent, and righteous cause to make things even cheaper. He reduces spearmen and archers, which are now even more potent in Immortal Empires, so what more can I say? He was great, he's still great. Next we have the Ever Queen Alarielle, and she's as good as she ever was. She still has her Power of Nature ability, doing everything it used to, giving extra influence growth, so doing a tour around a new settlement each turn will still do that. That's arguably stronger now because you have more settlements in the current map that's closer together, so that immediately makes her better. But here's the thing, she's got no losses on anything she does. She has the exact same skill tree, the one that no one ever takes, but tradition dictates is still just as amazing, giving a buff with high elf relations. This is really good, particularly now with diplomacy being tougher. Every diplomatic boost you can get is worth a lot more in Warhammer 3. You get your handmaiden buffs, you can hire them anywhere, again excellent, increases the cap, as well as the Sisters of Avelorn. If you want to build your army around them with her, which you should, she can do it just as well as she could before. Gets a free eagle mount now due to the changes, and now again there is no choice to be had. At the end of the day she will be an incredible caster, she'll be able to hang in melee as well as get every single buff on her archers. So overall she's still insanely powerful. She's of course going to be just not quite as destructive in battle due to the Winds of Magic changes, but that's the same as everyone across the board and we have to hold it to that account. In terms of her getting that short campaign victory, she simply has to free Ulthuan from the 3 invaders, being Naggarythe as well as the Cult of Exodus and the Scourge of Cain. So here we only have 10 settlements, but here's the deal, she needs to win against 30 of them. So once you've united Ulthuan, I'd say your first stop will probably be working over this way, and by the time you take out Naggarythe, that should get you pretty close to the mark. As always, the medium to long-term goals are always the same. Make sure you control all of Ulthuan and eradicate the Dark Elves. Get yourself some more heroes, and if you're not snowballing by then, you absolutely will be. The control of Ulthuan still debuffs her and has the same effect, so trying to get this under control is going to be more difficult in this game, but the results will be roughly the same. Next up we have Teclis, and we can see his new starting position. No longer in Lustria, he's been moved over once again on a coast, but here is the big difference. Beforehand, he couldn't move further down and couldn't actually underpass the coast. There wasn't really any more coastline to go to, and the High Elves are going to be much stronger along the coastline. So instead we have some more High Elf allies here. Again, we've got no shroud on, so we can see what's going on. This is basically the start position. I've just quickly busted out the first couple of turns to show that within turn 2 or 3 you'll get your hands on a gold mine, so you don't have to defeat Lockyer for it. It's much more secure. We have mountain passes here, so fair enough, the greenskins can go under, but we've got lizardmen around here, we've got lizardmen on the other side here, so you've got Krokkar as your neighbor, pretty easy to keep friendly, so this is much stronger diplomatically. Between you and Krokkar you'll be able to expel the Skaven here, down here, and your ultimate goal, one of your objectives, is to eradicate Tzeentch, and this minor Slaneshi faction here. So pretty much just making a coastal network here. You've got trade partners here, which you could eventually confederate, as well as up the coast here, you can send your first noble up here to discover Imrik, and once again trade him, gift him, make sure he's strong. In terms of his skills, once again, it's looking pretty much the same, guys. He has everything's been readapted to the new Winds of Magic system, but here's the deal, everyone else has been tuned down like this, and he's still head and shoulders above your typical caster, and I would still rank him as one of the best casters in the entire game. So all these amazing buffs to Loremasters and mages. Now remember, his main buffs don't come from his skill tree, they come from his items. And as far as I know so far, I haven't got all of them yet, but everything else looks unchanged in terms of items, and it's looking very, very strong here. So cooling down your spells, reduced Winds of Magic cost on your spells. These come from items, not his skill tree. Being able to hire mages globally, once again, there's only one chink here that I do see, and that is the fact that you have to get Dark Elves to get the Scroll of Hoeth. So the best way to achieve this will be to do as I said, get your noble up here, get a confederation here when you can manage to land one, and then just go and attack the Dark Elves here, or just hopefully help expel Naggarythe. Massive upgrade for Teclis. Next up, Eltharion, and as you can see, not much has really changed here. He has two armies, one needing to expel greenskins from Ulthuan, and the other one down here in the Badlands. It's pretty damn similar. Let's remove the Shroud and see what he has to deal with. As we can see here, it's pretty much identical. He does have some heavyweights like Malagor and as well as Scarbrand to deal with, but he also has a lot of dependable trade partners and allies in the Tomb Kings who you can always be trusted to have your back. You've got great trade partners here with the Border Princes, Estalia. There's as much opportunity as there is new challenge here, so I think this is overall good. Again, probably a dicey first 20 turns. As soon as you're set up, you're going to have no problems at all. Of course, he still has the prison. It works exactly the same way as it used to, the cage being pretty good. There's a really great mod, by the way, if you get really sick of having to manually fight your battles, there is a mod which automatically captures any lord that you're against, which it's not out yet. Trust me, it'll be one of the first ones that's made. I forget who makes it, but shout out to that creator, give them some love, because it's a great time saver when you don't want to fight easy battles just to be able to get your captives. Again, he sports the biggest roster in the entire High Elf army. Here's all the stats. I don't believe there's anything that's too material, but yeah, he basically functions the same. Although I will also say, because battle loot is one of the bigger ways to get money in Warhammer 3, he has a lot of battles and can get incredibly rich very, very quickly. He's going to be in no short supply of combat here. So if you manage diplomatically Ulthuan, keep that peaceful and just slowly confederate your way in, as well as keeping all of your military ventures down here, not overexpanding, you're going to have a very, very lucrative campaign, and I think he has the potential to be one of the most powerful High Elf Lords in Immortal Empires. In regards to his skill tree, again, not much has actually really changed here. The only things that have really changed are he's still got the never-ending volleys, so he can replenish his ammunition. The only things that have really changed are things that refer to the Winds of Magic. He of course has Grim Discipline, and that's even better. Of course, he as well gets that benefit from the Martial Prowess, discounts to his Mistwalker units, and yeah, he's just the same powerhouse he was. I forgot to say this with Teclis as well. Getting your mounts for free is actually pretty good. This means you can keep them really mobile and get that benefit when you get them onto a steed, as well as around level 14 or level 18 respectively. You have a lot of competition, high level spells, you want to maybe boost your ammunition. Getting these for free benefits hybrid lords immensely. And I forgot to say this for Teclis as well, you get to have every single boost. You get all of your archery buffs. You'll never be short of like favorable wins and these other amazing army buffs in the face of wanting to buff up Fiery Convocation, maybe increase your melee defense to make you a better duelist. Caster lords particularly really win out, and the High Elves have a lot of caster lords. Next up we have everyone's favorite edgelord, Alith Anar, and once again he has his special assassination missions. Those haven't changed, bolstering I think even better influence in some cases, as well as the great diplomatic buffs. Going to be really, really useful given how much more difficult confederations are. So Alith Anar as a faction is going to operate incredibly strong here. He's got a lot of opportunity to use his ambush in the starting location here. So turning the Shroud off here to see his very, very first turn, and his goal is to, of course, unite Karen Carr's starting territory. The only issue he has here is this is a much more difficult and spread out piece of territory to hold. Originally, he was down here, and this meant that he could work his way in to taking out Naggarythe, either befriend or destroy the lizardmen here. If you befriend them, then you've got your flanks on the south secured, and you could work your way up. It's not really his concern anymore. He's looking straight pretty much for Malekith as well as the surrounds here, but the problem is the further he drills in, the more trouble he gets himself into. So you probably see Malekith there with only 2 provinces and think, you know, I could take that. That's possibly a trap. Maybe it's good. I'd have to test that out, but taking Naggarythe very early might be a good idea, but we'll have to see. I'd say probably the best idea is just to slowly work your way across here and just take it apart piecemeal and just edge your way across. But you don't need to rush it because you still need to win against 30 different settlements. But some people that don't like those campaigns, maybe beelining for Naggarythe and setting yourself up there will be the way to go. We'll just have to see. In terms of his skills, he's looking pretty similar. All his tasty ones are still there. He still has, along this Revenant line, his ability to buff Shadow Walkers and Shadow Warriors. And he has Renegade. Again, the 12% faction-wide missile buff, still there. Finally, Shadow King, again, a massive public order buff to all provinces, and no rest of the wicked. When he finishes the battle, he can move 15% more. Very, very nice. You'll have the points to buff him up to be an incredible sniper and make use of all of his army-wide abilities. So yeah, pretty good stuff. I'd say overall his mechanics lend themselves very well to the Immortal Empires campaign, and he's very powerful. Arguably more powerful, but in the context of his starting position, he has a lot of challenge. To the point you'll probably be begging Grombrindal for an alliance because you're both pretty damn short of friends, but I think it has the potential to be an absolute powerhouse fun campaign, and you really will feel like you're out there slaughtering Dark Elves just like he's meant to. Next up we have my main faction, Imrik and the Knights of Caledor. His start is the same location, but everything else around him is what's moved here. So his short victory condition is eradicating the Poxmakers of Nurgle. Let's see, so here they are. They'll basically have taken the Dragon Isles by the time you get there, so your goal is to move across here, take the Dragon Isles, and then afterwards Clan Rictus will have moved their way down and eradicate them. So the recommendation is do not go past this way here. It's too mountainous and the Skaven will outmaneuver you. Just work your way this way, take the Dragon Isles. They're very rich, don't worry about the climate, they will still make you incredibly rich. Make yourself a wall here and then ally with Cathay. Trading with them will open up more trade and make you incredibly rich. Yes, you can trade with Ying if that so turns you on. And after that, you just basically win here and then work your way down. Send a hero down here to start trading with Teclis. You only need to win your 6 settlements to be able to confederate with Caledor. That quest is currently bugged and not working, which is why I'm not streaming Imrik at the moment. But I've got a 20-turn guide which will break this down in more detail. Overall, he's definitely stronger, he has much easier time, but he's still not the top tier of Elves. He's going to have a bit more of a difficult time if the AI get ratcheted up in terms of aggression, but still he has more than what he needs, and he's got plenty of defensive points here which he can wall up and make into a nice cozy frontier here, which keeps anyone out. In terms of his skills, absolutely nothing has changed. He still has Caledor Incumbent, his most powerful skill, allowing 3 more nobles, as well as 2 extra influence, and everywhere you can recruit nobles. He still has Vol's Armament, Dragonheart, Astride the Battlefield, and Ancient Pride. That one's still not worth getting in my opinion, and of course, Ashen Fields, Blazing Lance, and a Dragon Pact. He is an absolute beatstick. I'd say even more so. I think he himself operates even stronger than he did. I've played this guy to death, so it felt easier once he's on his dragon, so I think that's the dragon buffs. Overall, definitely a buff, a lot more options, as well as the fact he can trade all the way down here through Ulthuan and anywhere else, so his economic shortcomings are completely gone now. He's got a rougher time, he still feels a bit stretched and a fish out of water, which is what makes him so cool. The fact he's out in the middle of nowhere hunting dragons is still a thing. You haven't lost that hunter in the wilderness vibe, so you want to play fun? Get all 5 of your dragons. By the time you've done that, this will be consolidated, and then head back to Ulthuan with everything walled up, and this can just be a lucrative cash cow, and you can go on to your major mission of long victory and kill Malekith. Anyway guys, I hope that has alleviated some of your fears and shown that the High Elves are in more than a good place, and actually shone more light on the benefits that they've got in Immortal Empires, and that everything is in the context of a new campaign that operates differently. they are certainly still top tier, and I hope you have an absolute blast when you get your hands on them. And that's it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please like, share, sub. It really does help out. And feel free to ask any questions in the comments. I will try to answer everything. Thanks for supporting, and I will see you next time. Cheers.